Hello and welcome to another out of spec detailing video, and welcome to Clear Detailing, my personal shop located in Windsor, Colorado. Today we've got something a little fun through the shop. This is Audi's RSQ8 and we're going to be doing a full new car vehicle prep detail. Before I get started here, what's kind of interesting working on new Audis is this is actually how I got my start and started my detailing business. Back in college, I was kind of working just some kind of miscellaneous jobs here and really started to get into detailing. And I actually got hooked up with our local Audi Porsche store, which is actually Ed Carroll Motor Company over in Fort Collins. And what I was doing there is doing basically somewhat similar to what we're doing here. We've definitely bumped up the level of detail here for these clients, but we were doing a lot of new car vehicle preps for the dealership. So what we do if we got a special vehicle like this, or say an exclusive Audi paint, is we were doing a paint correction right off the boat. We were getting the car polished, as well as putting a bit of protection on it, so that these things in the showroom just looked absolutely stunning. It was nice to see at the time that the dealership cared about how their vehicles were presented to their clients, spending the money and time to go through making sure that these things look absolutely proper. So I'm pretty well versed with new Audis, how they come in, kind of some of the nuances that go along with these. I have seen in my kind of recent history with Audis lots of sanding marks, quite a bit of rotary marks here and there. One of the biggest things that they used to do was transport these basically from the Houston port up to Colorado here on an open trailer. Audis would come with these huge white bags on the car, and they would sit there and literally flap. And what that would cause would be basically rub marks, and we used to call it bag rub back in the day, from all of the bags basically moving and, in all honesty, kind of destroying the paint on their way up to Fort Collins here. They used to get them pretty bad, especially on the RSQ8, this kind of whole piece above the windows here. So I'm pretty versed in kind of looking for issues like that. So we'll definitely take a deep dive into that. Now, this one is pretty special. So this is one of my extremely good clients. I've had him as a client for years. He always gets the coolest stuff through. And yeah, this is his newest acquisition. So this is the brand new Audi RSQ8, finished in Daytona Grey paint, cognac interior. This interior is absolutely stunning. Kind of the big party trick with this car, this is basically a baby Lamborghini Urus, if you will. So let's pop the hood open here. And this is Audi's 4-liter twin turbo V8 producing 591 horsepower. This thing sounds insane. What a vehicle this is. Now, coming around the sides, and one of the big things is we have absolutely massive wheels. So these are 295, 35, 23-inch wheels. They honestly don't look that huge on this car. This is a big vehicle. But as I bring it down here, look at the size of those calipers. Just absolutely massive. I'll be excited to get these wheels off to get kind of a good impression on how huge those are. Now, coming around the back here, we've got the full blackout badges here. Looks incredible against the Daytona Grey paint. Obviously, the signature RS oval exhaust tips. Gosh, this thing just looks menacing. I love that this is such a stealth vehicle. It's kind of, if you know, you know. Like when you see one of these, it's just like, oh wow, that's a nice looking Audi. And then you see the spicy badge over there and go, oh, that's the cool one. So let's check through the interior here. This is just a stunning place to be. Look at these seats. Absolutely love this. So this is the cognac interior. We've got accenting gray stitching, a full Alcantara headliner, all of the latest amazing tech in the infotainment system. Lots and lots of screens to, to deal with here. So from a detailing perspective, we're going to talk through with my client kind of a good process on how to keep this clean and making sure that we're not causing any scratches, especially on this piano black here as well. So I'll kind of go through that process with my client as we go. But yeah, this thing is just incredible. Love the cognac accents here. Again, more Alcantara, a nice wood finish here. Not sure on the exact option of that, but just a very nice place to be. So the kind of cool thing with this particular vehicle is I know the owner of the dealership, kind of the GM actually, of where this car came from, and asked him, hey, my client's getting this vehicle, would you mind not really prepping it so that I can do my work, not worry about any scratches from the detail bay? Sure, not a problem. So basically my client received this car. It came to me a day later. He's gone right now, and we're gonna get this thing absolutely dialed in for him. We've got a few days with it, and yeah, can't wait for this one. Not gonna touch much on the actual clear bra per se, but we do have a little bit of film here. So it actually ends on this kind of quarter fendered. We've got more PPF on the actual back of the mirrors, but no front bumper PPF, which is, I would say, kind of strange. If it were me and I was like, I have to have PPF, maybe get the bumper done, because this is just a massive kind of sheet, like a flat grill, and you're gonna pick up a lot of rock chips as the same as the hood. If you're gonna spend money to do the full hood, why not do the full bumper? Just kind of one of those things. So we are now at the point where I think it's time to run through the full wash process. And I'm gonna pull this out of the bay here. We're gonna come into our actual wash bay area and get this thing cleaned up, looking ready and perfect for the paint correction and or polishing. All right, now pulled into the wash bay, and we're ready to start the process. I'm gonna run you through a few things that I need to kind of point out, things that I'm thinking of while rinsing and washing this car off. Now we've got another vehicle in here. This is actually in for somewhat of a same procedure where it's getting a paint correction, doing the coatings. That's another story, but we need to ensure that we're not making this filthy as it's sitting here waiting to be detailed. Nonetheless, so let's walk around this thing a little bit. I did want to point this out here. I'm wondering if this is any wipe marks or if this is actual bag rub, as I talked about before. It feels very kind of interesting, to say the least. So I'll keep an eye on that, seeing what that's going to do. Also, I do want to note these spoiler edges had always gotten kind of hammered from those bags, but I believe now what Audi's doing, I haven't kind of been in that realm in a while, but I believe they are actually closed transporting these cars. So not sure what that mark up there is, but we'll go through that. Now, as far as the wash process, a couple of things I'm going to talk about first off. Now this car has full hood PPF, as I've said now a couple times. With this, I believe it's only been on for right around a week. So I want to ensure that I am not really getting after it with the pressure washer, especially on any of the edges, because if we get lifting there, not a good situation. I don't know exactly, again, when this clear bra went in, but I believe it was in the last week. So I want to be mindful of that there. Now, the other thing we'll talk about is wheels and engine bay. And I'm not going to go through and fully detail these wheels now. The reason being is I'm kind of assuming we're going to have to do a little bit of paint correction just as I looked around the car. There were a few kind of deeper scratches before I started filming anything that I saw, but I do think it's important to understand my process. So what I normally do is I do the full paint correction after I get the car kind of quickly washed off. It produces a ton of compounding dust. So if I were to spend time cleaning these wheels now, get them kind of covered in compound dust, I'm still gonna have to go back and clean them. So what I like to do is do a body wash on this, right? So we're prepping the car to get ready for any sort of buffing. So what I'm gonna do is leave the wheels alone. I am actually going to rinse out these wheel arches because they do have kind of a little bit of dirt and grime, just from, you know, water spots here and there, a little dirt nonetheless. Same goes with the engine bay. I don't think I'll really need to fully detail this, but to get out some of the kind of bigger, heavier dirt in there, I may rinse it off. But again, I'm gonna wait until after the paint correction process because we are 100% gonna get dust in the engine bay. So now that we're ready to go with that, I'm gonna start the kind of bucket fill here. So this is very important here. And as you'll notice down here, I've got my grit guards on both of these. This already has soap in it, and these are my wash mitts. Now we've got a rinse and a wash bucket here. This is important because this is only fresh water and this is soap. So anytime I touch the panel, so say I come on this hood, I'm gonna wash the hood down and then it's gonna go back into the rinse bucket. When I'm ready to wash the next panel, I'm gonna take it out of the wash bucket or out of the rinse into the wash bucket and then on the panel. This minimizes any contamination that we're pulling off the paint or that is getting caught underneath those grit guards there. It's important, especially at this stage, we don't want to do any more work, right? We don't want to be causing any more scratches or marring or anything like that on the paint. This is also important for maintaining this vehicle after the fact. With this particular client, I believe I'm most likely going to be the only one washing this car. Kind of a nice detail valet service I do for him. He'll text me, say, hey, I need this cleaned up, bring it back to the shop, give it a thorough wash, take it back to his house. It's kind of a cool process. Nonetheless, let's get started here, filling these up and ready for our wash process. So we've got our foam cannon ready to rock and roll as well. We're gonna get this system ready to go. This is my Kranzla system. Gosh, I cannot live without this thing. Absolutely love this. If you're wondering, this is a full filtration system that we do for our final rinse so that basically any water sitting in areas like this that take a little bit time to dry, we're not causing any water spotting. Also, the paint is of course cool and we are in an enclosed shop, which is the ideal way to wash a car. Minimizing any water spotting. You definitely do not want to wash vehicles out in the sun if you can prevent it. So let's get into this process now. We're gonna get these all pulled out and get the wash party started. All right, so while this was sitting here, I got a few nice photos for kind of my website, Instagram stuff, but we're letting this sit on here. And I know I'm gonna get asked the question, why didn't you rinse this first? And the reason I didn't rinse is because one, the car wasn't very dirty. Number two, what we're gonna do now is we're going to re-rinse the car off, getting any of that huge grime, not huge, but kind of any grime that was on the vehicle, rinse it off, refoam the car, and then start the actual hand wash process. I find this is a good way to just minimize any risk. It takes a little bit longer, a little bit more product, but I think well worth it in the end. Now, as you saw, I did rinse or foam the wheels as well as the wheel arches. The wheel arches, again, breaking down any of that dirt inside of there, we'll be sure to first rinse that off and rinse the wheels. We're just knocking somewhat of the grime off here. We're not doing a full wheel wash because we're gonna be removing these and it's way easier just to go in there, clean them while they're off the actual vehicle. So I find this is a better process to do. So now that this has kind of sat for a little while, pulled most of that grime out, I'm gonna go ahead, re-rinse it, and then we're gonna start our hand washing process. right, we got the car hand washed. Now time for final rinse. So we're gonna turn off our tap water, turn on the deionized water, and looking like 0 ppm, exactly what we wanna see. So let's start the rinse process. We are now rinsed down, ready to dry, looking pretty awesome already. So what I'm gonna do is towel dry most of the paint, and then definitely areas down here in these very intricate grills is I'll go in and use my blow car dryer. So this is a heated and filtered, which I love, high pressure dryer. So you can either use something like that, you can use an air compressor. I find this is substantially better using the blow car dryer than an air compressor. This thing's looking pretty sharp already, so that's good to see. Now, a few things talking as far as drying on this. So obviously you saw me towel dry the paint, and then I went and cleaned out all of these cracks with the blow car dryer over here. This car holds just an insane amount of water, like literally insane how much all of these little vents and pieces hold on there. That's why I love so much using those car dryers. It helps me in the future. Now, I was talking about my DI system, and those are fantastic, but I still would want to try and dry that. So I did dry the grills as well as the wheels. I do still need to go in the door jambs and wipe those down as well. Now, I wanted to quickly talk about the grill, because you may see this, and I know somebody's gonna ask about it throughout the video, but I did not thoroughly go in and clean all this. You notice still quite a bit of grime in there. I just kind of did an initial clean on there, but again, we are going through either paint correction or polishing process, and what that does is produce a lot of compound or polishing dust. So anytime I do that, the car will get re-rinsed. I definitely know before even filming this that the car is going to need a slight bit of compounding, so I am doing it in that case. Now, I have looked over this just quickly off camera before, seeing kind of what the process is, getting a game plan in my mind, but I'm just talking to you as if, you know, we were doing this for the first time. So being that I did look at it, we're doing a little bit of compounding. I know we're gonna get a little bit of dust. So it wouldn't make sense for me to come in, clean this very precisely, and then start the compounding and get it all inside of there, knowing I'm gonna have to go back and clean that. So let's walk around the car a little bit now. And again, I cannot believe, and this is so common, of all of these drip marks everywhere. Like, it's just, I spent so much time already, probably almost 20 minutes just trying to dry this thing out. I mean, all of these little seams just hold a massive amount of water. Up here on the roof rails, holding a ton of water as well. Typically, yeah, again, right there. Typically with the Q8s, SQ8s, RSQ8s, I've worked on a few of them. First time actually doing an RSQ8, which is fantastic, but they always have water coming out of them. So I always take that into consideration doing a maintenance detail. I always add probably about an hour extra to let some of this stuff dry out a little bit. Typically with my maintenance deal programs, these are for my kind of very specific clients. Some, maintain their cars on their own. Some like to have me be the only one washing them. So I typically pick it up from their house, bring it here, take it back to their house. So I'm driving it, it's being put on the road. I did want to make a quick point about this. I was almost thinking that this may have just been a chemical that was put on here and rubbed off. It doesn't appear to be that. So we're gonna take a look at that once we kind of get into the more detailing process here. So again, the purpose of this first video is to kind of do a first evaluation. That's what we're doing so far. So our next kind of steps, I'm gonna go through quickly, try and get a little bit more of this water out, and then I will wipe the entire car down with an isopropyl alcohol mix. Now this is a very important step because if there are any sort of waxes on this, any sort of sealants or fillers or buffing polish or anything, we're gonna remove all that and actually see naked paint, and that's important. But let's come in here and start taking some paint readings. And again, this is Audi Daytona Grey, 4.46 mils, 5 mils, 5.41, 5.49, pretty consistent so far. Let's check around the door handles here, 4.96. Let's check around here, 5.41. Let's do the center of this back door, 4.76. Very, very consistent, and I've seen that with Audi in my previous history with them. So in general, I kind of have a good idea that I've got enough paint to work with in general. So if we are having to do a little bit of paint correction as far as compounding, I have enough paint to do so, and that's very, very good to see. This is a nice amount of paint. We obviously don't want to go crazy, but we'll kind of talk through that as we walk through the paint, get kind of an evaluation of what the best route for this particular vehicle is. So I'm going to turn down the lights now. We're going to get the SCANGRIPs out. I'm going to show you everything that I see and find on this to an extent, and we'll go from there. All right, we've got the lights off here, and let's first start with all of the gloss black. I know this is going to be probably the easiest to see. Grays can be kind of hard, especially on camera, to pick up marks, a little bit of scratching, but we'll do what we can in general. So let's start with this grille here. So as I come in, definitely a few scratch marks, a little bit of spotting. Notice how it's kind of a little ghosty, not really that clear. Some good amount of scratching in here. Nothing that I would call crazy. A little bit of maybe polishing went on this as well. As we come over here, I know that these gloss black, black optics are going to be mighty, yeah, got some good scratches in it. Also, look at how hazy that glass is. Pretty typical with new leather. And what happens is the leather actually off-gasses, creates this film, and you get crazy, unclear glass like that. Let's look at these piano black pillars. Again, a little bit of water spotting, so that may play into having to bump up from a polish a little bit. We'll kind of have to play from it. What I'm seeing so far already, Definitely going to need to do a little bit of compounding, a light compound. Let's check this piano black trim around here. Same thing, some water spotting on here. Definitely some good scratching going on. As we work our way around the vehicle, look at up here. Not looking too hot up there. Now, there is a little bit of lint on the vehicle from wiping. I was using brand new towels and they do leave a little bit of lint, but check out that, and again, directly from the factory, it's been through the port. I believe this car sat at the port for a little while, so that little bit of water spotting could have come from that as well. I am kind of wondering if this car maybe did get washed while it was up at the dealership. We'll kind of see as we go. As you can see, kind of the gray is hard to look at, but check out all the, look at the scratching there. So again, 48-mile Audi. People always ask me, why do new cars need buffing? Well, I don't know about you, but I'd say that that needs a little bit of love on it. Tail lights, we've definitely got some scratches, swirl marks on it. Very, very common. Yeah, look at that. Lots of work and polishing to do on those for sure. As we come back here, this piano black trim, as always. Whoa, look at right up there on that kind of light bar. So that's a factory polishing mark there, and not very well done. So that looks like they, yikes, that looks like they really got after it there. This gloss black trim here, severe scratches down on that. Yikes, that needs some serious work there. Again, one of those things from Audi, and I can actually see some rotary marks right there on this B pillar. So that's going to need quite a bit of work, some deeper scratches in there as well. Honestly, from what I'm seeing, needs a little bit of compounding for sure. Now on the paint, what I originally saw was that there were a few what I call rids, or in the industry we call rids, and rids are random isolated deep scratches. So you'll have maybe, say here, if you had one scratch, that would be called a rid, but if you have multiple swirl marks everywhere, that's just swirl marks. Now I did see, ooh, actually right down here, I don't know if I'm gonna get this on camera, I think I just did. Notice this kind of area here, how it's kind of ghosty, holograms. So that was polishing from Audi, and yeah, in person it's really picking it up. I apologize, the camera is not picking it up as well. Also, there's a pretty big kind of like mark here. There you go, you can kind of pick it up there. Definitely some marks here as well, and here. Wondering what that's from. Wonder if that's either from transport or something like that. But that's the first indication right here of some work. I think as I walk around this, get lights at different angles, I'll definitely be able to see quite a bit more defects like that. So I'm gonna set this down for right now. I'm gonna take a quick look around this, pull you guys in for whatever else I see, and we'll kind of go from there. Let's look at this back panel here, and typically what the easiest way for me to do this is to zoom in a little bit. And you'll notice here's our light source. Look at the scratches above here and there. Those are some defects to remove. And I know this is kind of like, really, that's all you're removing, but the whole point of this detail is to make this car literally look perfect, like as perfect as possible. This client is extremely particular. I love these type of clients, kind of on that like OCD realm, which is exactly how I am. I have what I call this a little bit of a curse in being a detailer, because all I see, anytime I see cars anywhere, I walk into a car dealership, oh wow, there's a McLaren. All I see is the swirls. That's all I see. And it kind of drives me nuts, but it's also like, that's what I do for a living, so that's what it is. Want to quickly point out this kind of lower rocker panel side skirt. I call them side skirts. I don't know what you guys call them. Doesn't matter. Check out these marks here. So we've got one here and more back here that actually show quite a bit. Wondering as to what these are, but those are either some kind of deeper rub marks, but they're kind of consistent. So we've got one there, one back here, as well as a pretty big one right here as well. So those are definitely going to get some good polishing. And again, talking light source, look how different this looks here from when we had the light at the top coming down. It's harder to see this, and that's what I'm talking about, having different lighting conditions. Now, as I bring you in, what it looks like to me, a little bit of sanding went on here. Notice how right next to the edge, it's a little flatter. So I think they sanded this, hit it quickly with the rotary, didn't finish out. So we're gonna fix that, no problem, after the fact. Yeah, so as I come down here, again, still some more scratching down the side. And initially when I looked at this door, I was like, it looks pretty good. But just moving the light source around makes such a big deal. So here too as well, notice that deeper scratch right there. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So the areas around it don't have much, but in order to get this out, I got to compound it anyway. It's a catch-22. It's a tricky situation. But what happened here, I would assume, is we're putting down this kind of clear bra edge and either wiping it or whatever happened. There are definitely some scratches behind the door as well, as you can see right above the light source there. So just in general, I know they seem kind of light. In person, they really show kind of badly. So yeah, look down this door here. Quite a bit more deeper scratches in there as we go. I think my process is going to definitely need to have a full light to medium paint correction. Again, look at that deep kind of mark right there. Really interesting. Wonder what that's from. So this is another slightly tricky situation. So realize we have clear bra on this back kind of protecting this. What's kind of interesting, and this is one of those things about PPF, this is not a high quality film. This is not XPEL that is self-healing or any of the other brands. I don't know many more brands. I used XPEL when I was installing film. But the interesting thing is here, we've already got some deep scratches. And normally with a film like XPEL, these would self-heal. This particular one does not do that. So a little bit tricky, but as you can see, we've got some pretty deep scratching there. What I'll probably end up trying to do is lightly polish this area. And you can polish clear bra, but it can be tricky, especially not knowing exactly the film it is. Just one of those kind of weird things though to note there. Just looking around this backside here also, definitely got good little scratches here. So I would have liked to see, if we were actually going to protect this whole thing, take that clear bra, go all the way down the side so you're getting full protection of the back. So far, this side, as well as we saw on the gloss black trim, this side's looking a little bit better than the driver's side, kind of interesting. Am still seeing a little bit above kind of the door handle area here, a few small scratches here and there. Just again, not super clear paint, and I think we'll get that kind of remedied once we get this paint corrected and polished. Noticing here as well, nice little scratch mark there. Haven't seen anything down in this area as far as kind of the rotary marks. Honestly, on the RS Audis, I don't know why it is. I believe it's because the RS Audis are built on a different manufacturing line than the regular Q8s in this scenario. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's the case. I also know when cars get what they call Audi exclusive paint, they are painted on a different line. So that's kind of interesting as well to think about. Normally what I've seen as far as paint to sample, Audi exclusives, special colors, this is not one of those, but if you see those, they typically have a lot more work done on them in regards to sanding marks, rotary marks, just in general. This is looking reasonably well for an RS car, and I don't know why typically when I see the RS cars, again, I believe they're built on a different assembly line. I could be 100% wrong. Let me know in the comments below if you guys know that for particularly Audi. I'd be curious to know that. Again, it's been 3, 4, 5 years, I think, probably close to 5 years since I've worked with the Audi dealership. I've since gone to working on clients' vehicles like this that are ultra particular. That's what I love to do. I really, really do. So Not seeing a ton down this side. I'll still, again, do a light correction. The nice thing with compounding is I can really adjust the level of cut. So if we bring down the speed, if we bring down the pressure, if we bring down the amount of passes, can also bring down the amount of compound. So you can really tweak and dial that in. It's not like compounding is compounding, but there's also these little, like, you know, essentially dials that you can go turn them all down and really get exactly what we're looking to do. So again, super nice to have a light source like this when I'm buffing on these cars and I can see exactly what I'm seeing. Also noticing this kind of weird mark here. I think that may be a little bit of the deviation in the actual metallic here. That's kind of interesting. And I think that may be similar to what I saw up here. I don't think I can get it on camera. This area in person has, you can kind of see it right there. Notice how this is like slightly darker than above and below it. Let me see if I can pop in here. Yeah, kind of, ooh, you can a little see it right there. Kind of strange marks. That's something in the actual metallic. Wondering what happened there. Kind of strange for Audi. I've seen very, very consistent paint from Audi throughout my career, as I've said before. But looking like a light compound, it's, I don't know if I explained this before, but it's one of those things I almost wish the paint either had slightly more scratches so that it would make more sense to do a full compound, or scratches that weren't so deep. It's kind of one of the, it's a tricky situation to be in, right? There's no like perfect answer. I just know my kind of premise on this car. Make it look as best as possible, and that's it. So now that we've had a good look around the vehicle with the paint inspection, looking over the scratches that we could pick up on camera, I really wish I was able to bring you guys in here and show you in person, because it looks so much different in person. I can just see so many more scratches than the actual camera is picking up. Nonetheless, our job is to make this thing look as good as humanly possible, and that's what we're gonna do. So in part 2, we are going to go through the full paint correction polishing stage of the actual detail. And then later on in part 3, we are going to be ceramic coating and protecting this entire vehicle top to bottom. So I can't wait to get that one done. We are also going to go through all the little details that I do with a new car vehicle prep in the 3rd video and show you the end results. This thing is going to look absolutely stunning when it's done. So I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for joining me at my shop, Clear Detailing, here in Windsor, Colorado. Thank you for watching another out of spec detailing video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.